We're going to cover some graphing of lines and in standard and slope-intercept form, as well as writing the equations of lines and solving some application problems. We're going to start our discussion of lines with the standard form of an equation. The standard form of an equation is ax plus by equals c, where a and b are real numbers and a and b are both not 0. Now, typically when we're talking about standard form, many times a is going to be a positive integer and b is going to be an integer, and then c we try to write as an integer also. You might have to do some manipulating to get it in standard form that way, but that's typically what we do. Okay, so let's look at how we can use standard form to graph lines by simply finding the x and y-intercept. Now remember, with the x-intercept, we're going to make y equals 0, and with the y-intercept, we're going to make x equals 0. So let's look at this first example. If I want to find the x-intercept, I'm going to make y equals 0. So 3x minus 2 times 0 equals 6, leaves me with 3x equals 6, so x equals 2. So I have an x-intercept of 2, 0. The y-intercept means that we're going to make x equal to 0. So 3 times 0 minus 2y equals 6. So that leaves me with negative 2y equals 6. So y is equal to negative 3. So my y-intercept is 0, negative 3. So when I plot those 2 points, 2, 0, 0, negative 3, the line is the connection between those 2 points. Okay, let's move to the next one. This one, to find the x-intercept, we make y equal to 0. Well, I don't have a y to substitute in, so I'm really just going to solve for x. X equals negative 2, so my x-intercept is 2, 0. Now, to find the y-intercept, we make x equals 0. Well, think about what happens when we make x equal 0. We end up with 0 equals negative 10. Well, that's not actually true, so we actually do not have a y-intercept here. What we have is an x-intercept of negative 2, 0, no y-intercept. This is actually a vertical line through the point negative 2, 0. So vertical line ends up with an x-intercept but no y-intercept. Okay, let's look at the last one, y equals 2. Well, obviously, if I want to make x equals 0, I can get a y-intercept of y equals 2. So this is 0, 2 is the y-intercept. But to find the x-intercept, I make y equals 0, and we have the opposite problem. If I make y equals 0, 0 does not equal 2. So here, there's no x-intercept. What we find, 0, 2, is we find a horizontal line that has a y-intercept but no x-intercept. One aspect of lines that we have to look at is called the slope of a line. Also known as rate of change, it is the rate of change of y compared to the rate of change of x. You'll see this formula. Given 2 points, it's the change in y over change in x. What we do is we subtract the y values, we subtract the x values, and that becomes my slope. You'll sometimes hear this referred to as rise over run on a graph, because my change in y is my vertical change and my change in x is my horizontal change, and then that creates my line. So how do we find the slope of a line? Well, we just find the difference in the y values divided by the difference in the x values, as long as the difference in the x values is not 0. So let's look at this. If I'm going to find the slope of these 2 points, I'm going to do negative 8 minus 3, those are my y values, divided by 1 minus negative 2. So notice here that I can read my point from the top and the bottom, okay? So make sure that you're consistent when you're doing the change of, but order is actually not important as long as you're consistent. So what I find when I get that is negative 8 minus 3 is negative 11 over 1 minus negative 2, that's plus. 1 plus 2 is 3. So my answer is negative 11 over 3. All right, let's do another one. So this example number 5, when we subtract the y's, we get 1.3 minus negative 0.4 over 0.8 minus 1.2. So 1.3 minus a negative is a plus, so that leaves me with 1.7 divided by 0.8 minus 1.2 is a negative 0.4, and when you divide that, you get negative 17 over 4, or you could say negative 4.25. Now, having the slope in fraction form is helpful when we're graphing because it's easier to count rise over run if you're looking at a fraction than if you're looking at a decimal. All right, let's look at the number 6. Find the slope of the horizontal line y equals 0. Well, let's think about a horizontal line. Horizontal line has no rise because the graph does not go up. It only has run. So think about a horizontal line as having a point at 0, 4, and then another point at, say, 1, 4, because it's horizontal. Okay, so if I were graphing this, this would be 4, and so all the points on here have a y value of 4. Now, if I found the slope of that, that would be 4 minus 4 over 1 minus 0, which is 0 over 1. So the slope of a horizontal line is 0. Now let's think vertical lines. The slope of a vertical line, again, vertical line, this is negative 3. Okay, every point on here has an x value of negative 3, so let's say negative 3, 0, and negative 3, say 2. Now when I subtract 2 minus 0 over negative 3 minus negative 3, that gives me 2 over 0. Well, I can't divide by 0. Okay, there is no such thing as dividing by 0, so this is undefined. So the slope of a vertical line is undefined. So here's a summary of linear equations and their slopes. So if you're talking about a line in standard form, ax plus by equals c, where neither a nor b is 0, you're going to have a slanted line. If it's slanted to the right, it's a positive slope. If it's slanted to the left, it's a negative slope. So it also gives you a tip when you're graphing slopes. If your slope is negative, your line should end up leaning toward the left. If your slope is positive, then you should have a line that leans to the right. Then if you have y equals a value, then you're going to end up with a horizontal line where all the y values are the same, and that has 0 slope. Then lastly, if you have x equals a number, then you've got a vertical line, all the x values are the same, and you have undefined slope. So in a previous video, we talked about functions. Linear equations in standard form where neither a nor b is equal to 0, these are functions. Horizontal lines are functions because the x values are not repeating. However, vertical lines are not functions because you do have repeating x values.